Hey guys, JH. Welcome to the practice tee. It's a very, very hot practice tee here today. It's crazy. This is April in Australia, 2nd of April. Man, we've still got, 30 degree plus temperatures. Just crazy stuff. I have no idea what's happening with the world climate. I just know that in the 12 or so years I've been up here in this area, there's never been extended periods of hot weather like there is. Okay guys, what are we going to do on this hot day? And I've got my brim on today, guys, because I'm frying. Okay guys, what about Hogan According To JH? Now, we don't do any Hogan stuff, and clearly because there's just so much claptrap about what Hogan's secret was, and I think the secret was that it was a secret and that Hogan never told anybody. We've all got our theories on it. My theory is that his quality of ball striking was clearly because he was here. But how did he get there? Everybody says you've got to, supinate the left wrist. But guys, you can't do that physically. You can't just say, I'm going to bend my left wrist like that. That's a resultant, a reaction to something else. And what I think that something else was that from the top of the swing here, Hogan really did get this hand turning down. It was just turning down like that. And guys, it didn't turn down that way, in my opinion. It turned down that way. I just think, by the look of him anatomically and looking at him from a biomechanical and body component look about him and the positions and how they're getting to look like they do, you've got to basically do that. You have to go that way. You can't go that way. And some of those shots we've seen from Hogan down the line where he's here, well guys, you're coming from here. Now, to come from here, you've got to go there. I mean, that's elementary, dear Watson, I would think. In order to come from there, you've got to go there initially. And so, everybody talks about Hogan's, and Hogan even talked about his cup left wrist at the top. Well, if he did have a cup left wrist, and then later, in the later Hogan, he didn't have a cup left wrist. He might have had it in that Time magazine photograph shoot, but he certainly didn't have it late Hogan after the accident. He certainly didn't have that. He was as flat at the top as everyone else is. He was here at the top. He wasn't here. And to get into that position here, guys, unless you start turning it so early from the top, you can't get into that position. You haven't got enough time. Especially with a whipping, slashing type action that he had. Now, the crazy thing is, because I teach a lot of different variations of the golf swing, because I have to, because, a lot of my students, all swing differently. And they've all got specific problems relative to their golf swings. And I don't, a lot of occasions they don't want to learn something else, they want to fix their golf swing. So I've got to be able to look at their swing and articulate the problems within their mechanics. So I don't do a lot of that in my own golf swing. But I got to tell you guys, whenever I do, I got to tell you, I really do thunder the golf ball. And what is it, JH? Well, for me, it's as soon as I get to the top here, I'm just turning it that way. Bang! Almost like I'm going to hit myself in the ankle here. I'm going this way. My Norman told me that he went this way. Here. Tried to get his hands, what he felt was outside the back of his right foot on the downswing. Now, you think about that as a thought process. When you get here, and if you think you want your hands outside, you've got to go here. I've got to tell you guys, when I do that, I get some serious clamp on the golf ball. Now, I'm normally not a clamper. I'm a sweeper. But for the exercise today, and Hogan According to JH, I'm going to do some of that. Now the other thing that was quite evident in Hogan's pivot, or in Hogan's golf swing, was the turning around this front vertical axis, which Hogan said that he had that dream where he saw a old Scottish guy just turning around that left front leg here, which is lead vertical axis. Now Hogan did that in his golf swing, you can clearly see that, as did Mo Norman, which I'll talk about on the next video. So Hogan's pivot was here, there, and that's why from behind, guys, he looked like this. That's why he looked like that, because that he wasn't moving out of this. He wasn't moving out of this the plane of this front vertical axis. So I think those two things are quite, to me, obvious in his golf swing. Now the other side of the equation is that when he did get to the top of the backswing and he started to throw this early, he got to the stage where the right elbow was in here, and then from there he just fired that pivot through the ball. There was none of this coming down here and then rotating over like this, continuing on this to the ground, which would have been a smother. He just got to here, bang, and then he just rotated through. Now if you get to here and you're going here, you've squared the club face up, so you don't want to keep rotating down or you'll smother it. Just shut the face down and smother the shot. So he was smart enough to know that. He got to here and then he just rotated through with the pivot. I'm not good enough to do that, and my golf swing bears no resemblance to the great man's. But in terms of what I think I want to do, essentially that's it. So guys, as I get older I get sillier. I accepted a challenge from someone in the building where I live. It's a 27-storey building, it's got 54 flights of stairs. And they know that I work out a fair bit and I do some crazy stuff for my age. And they said, I bet you can't run the 54 flights of stairs. Anyway, cut a long story short, guys, I tried it and I couldn't. I mean, I'm only up on the 11th floor and I was done. There was 22 flights and I was done. I haven't done the aerobic stuff for years because I don't do it. I always just do strength training. But now that I've started, I'm going to do that 54 floors. But today, guys, I've got to tell you, my calves feel like I've got a hypodermic syringe stuck in them every step I take. So, and my body's is very, very sore today, so I'm going to look a bit scratchy. Anyway, that's just JH getting sillier as he gets older. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do, guys. From the top of the swing here, I'm going to be absolutely trying to get the club here, get it in here, and then just pivot release through the shot. First swing of the day. Wow, that was a good shot. What's interesting, guys, is how flat the ball goes compared to my normal flight. And of course Hogan was a low ball hitter. Great Norman von Nyder, Australian player. We had lots of discussions on Hogan because he played with Hogan quite a few times. And he said Hogan just hit it underground. He said most of the guys did in those days because the clubs, those old drivers and those old irons, hit the ball flat. But he said Hogan hit it very flat. So that was a good shot. So I'm just there was not a lot of good pivot in that, but we'll see what we can do. Wow, that's good. Oh, that blade was so square to the ball. Now clearly the difference between, that's such good contact. Now clearly the difference between Hogan's swing and mine is that his was the perfection of a biomechanical movement, and mine is like a centipede that's been run over by a bicycle. But what I'm trying to do, guys, here is just basically turn it down here as quick as I can and then just pivot release it. And of course Hogan had the luxury of having a much longer golf swing, so he had a lot of time to turn it down. I don't have that. And guys, believe it or not, you've got to turn it so early. See, that was too late. It's gone great. but didn't have the impact on it. You've got to turn it. You've got to turn it almost like as you're still going back, and you've got to turn it that way. I can't believe how low it goes, and as a result, what's this, a 5-iron? Yeah, as a result, it's going 4-iron or 3-iron height and 4-iron distance because it's going so low. Oh, guys, that's just unbelievable. The contact out of that. Now the difference is, clearly my pivot is not doing the work when it comes in here because my blade is not open. I'm getting a little 2-yard draw, whereas Hogan got the fade. So clearly he's coming in here, and then there's no more work with the hands here, which I tend to get. It shuts the blade down a little bit and I get that little draw, but he didn't do that and he hit the fade. So his pivot was actually releasing it, clearly, as opposed to what I'm doing with my hands. But that was beautiful contact. So if I can hit one this way, full on. It's such a pity you can't see the ball flight, because they're exactly the same shots, guys. Exactly the same shots. Much lower than I normally hit it. Oh, way lower. As Mo Norman would say, oh, way lower, way lower. Okay, let's see if I can do a better job of the pivot. Now that's dead straight. There's no draw on that. That's just dead straight. Now, if I could have a full shoulder turn, which is tough today because of my stiffness, I would have more time with that turn down and getting it back here. At the moment, the shoulder's not going far enough back, so I'm not far enough behind because my shoulder's only going to here. I'm not far enough behind. If I could turn it, so I get back here and then I can drive it that way. And so that's what I'll try and just have a bit bigger shoulder turn. Like that. And they're amazing, guys. I can't believe how flat the ball goes. I mean, it's just so flat. Well, obviously there, I mean, I'm taking so much loft off the golf club. It's really flat. And that's probably why Hogan hit it so flat, because he was always here, which is going to do loft the club 5 degrees minimum. Okay, see if I can make a better backswing. See, there's a little 2-yard draw. Every one of those is a little 2-yard draw. See what it looks like with the driver. Now, I've been tuning this new G30, guys. I'm trying a couple of different shafts. These pro shafts, but a couple of different flexes and lofts. Now Hogan didn't see the ball high, but I do. Now I'm going to turn it down, so I don't want to turn it, because I normally is this with me with the driver. This one's going to be sort of a trap shot, a feel of a trap shot. So this will be interesting. My goodness. My goodness. Oh, JH, that's different flight. Okay, I've fiddled with this driver, but I've knocked the loft down on it. It's down to 9 now. The shaft is stiffer, but that's not what's doing it. That really was a trap shot, guys. I can't believe that. That ball flight was different. I don't see that ball flight. That was piercing. Absolutely piercing. Now that was a big push slinger, because if you're going to turn it down that much, you've got to keep that pivot going without any hands. Now that was my normal release. That was cross-programming. I came in here with the turn down, and then I tried to add more hands to it, which I normally do, and I just hit that big push slinger. You can't do that. It's very much this through the ball. So it's got to be pivot release. like that. And guys, you know when you've done a pivot release as opposed to a throw release, in that you'll finish this way. That's a pivot release. There. You'll always get this look about you. Throw release, you'll get that look about you. And you'll be here. Now, I'm very much a throw release person. Alright. Gee, they're good shots, guys. I love that. Absolutely pure as. Wow. What's interesting is I wasn't getting any run with this driver in the shots that I was hitting in the last few days. But since I've gone to this method, like that's run 20 yards. Absolutely 20 yards. Because the flight's lower, there's more trap on it. More of this type of action through the ball. Yeah, guys, this is a bit uncanny. I just don't get this type of ball flight. And I don't get that type of hit with the driver. That feels like, you know, you're trapping a 5-iron off the ground with that, with this swing. That's a trap shot with the driver. And that is really solid. Okay, see if I can do a good long backswing with a proper pivot. Well, there you go, guys. That just flew every one of those other golf balls. Flew them. All the other golf, that flew over the top. Okay, I've got that 2-yard draw. I mean, that's just happening, but I'll be happy with that. When I refine my pivot more and get more of this, I'll be right. That was a wonderful shot. Wonderful shot. Guys, you've got to see this. You've got to see this to believe it. JH can't hit it like that. Oh, man. I wish I could transport everybody to here to see that. For an old dude like me to be able to hit the ball like that, that's just something else. That's almost like the spirit of Hogan has come down on JH practice tee and said, just let me get inside your body for a minute, JH, and we'll hit with the Hogan intention, not the Hogan swing, but the Hogan intention, because they're perfect. Every one of those is perfect, and I mean absolutely perfect. So we can do a better backswing. Now that's interesting. Now that was just a straight push of about 7 or 8 yards. So solid, but straight push. And I felt that I was here, because I actually got a little bit of pushback in my golf swing here. So if I can keep rotating but get that feel, I'll have the fade. Or I use my LS Tech ping driver, which is a low spin one, which does hit a fade anyway. This is the SF. So watch this, guys. That was impressive, that one. Now if I could do that smoothly, because I'm very excited, that's why the swing is very short and quick. But if I could do it smoothly like Hogan, okay, let's try and emulate Hogan's tempo. And people would say that I've got Hogan's tempo now, but it's Paul Hogan, not Ben Hogan. Crocodile Dundee, not Ben Hogan. Okay, nice smooth one, JH. Well, guys, that's Hogan according to JH. there's of course there's a lot more in it than that, clearly. A lot more in it. And I'm very happy that I've been able to do some form of emulation of what we're trying to talk about here today, because I'm really sore. And I feel that on the backswing as those calves load up, it's just like getting stuck with a hypodermic. Okay guys, that's the start of Hogan According to JH. So going forward, let's have a month of Hogan as well as the other two greats. I've just never been able to put the club on the ball with my action the way I need to explain Hogan, but this helps a lot, and I've known a lot about this, but I've never tried to do it. But they were perfect. There wasn't one of those shots that wasn't any good. They were all great shots. Okay guys, we'll do some more Hogan as the month progresses.